Have you ever wondered why some people, no matter how hard they try, feel as though something unseen keeps pulling them back, like an invisible chain they can't break? They work hard, they dream big, yet the moment they step forward, something goes wrong. Have you asked yourself if there could be more to life than what the eyes can see? In the Bible, salt was not only for flavor, but for covenant, for preservation, for cleansing. Salt has always carried a deeper meaning. It represents purity, protection, and permanence. When you place salt in your home, even in a hidden place like your toilet, you are not practicing superstition. You are declaring something powerful. That every hidden area of your life, every place that has been polluted or darkened, will now be cleansed. What is unseen often influences what is seen, and faith gives us the courage to confront it. A curse is not always thunder from the sky or shadows in the night. Sometimes a curse looks like repeated failure, constant heartbreak, money slipping away like water through fingers, or peace that never seems to last. These things are more than coincidence, they are cycles. And cycles are broken not only with effort, but with faith and action combined. Placing salt in your toilet may seem simple, even foolish to some, but faith often looks foolish to those who do not understand it. In the book The Fourth Dimension, Dr. David Yonggi Cho spoke about seeing the invisible and speaking the impossible into existence. Faith transforms the ordinary into a carrier of divine power. The salt is not the power itself, but a symbol of your authority to break curses and cleanse every hidden corner of your life. Many people clean the surface of their homes, but what about the unseen places? The toilet is where waste, dirt, and what no longer serves us is flushed away. Spiritually, it represents the things you need to release. By putting salt there, you are making a declaration. Every curse, every chain, every burden that has been sitting in the dark corners of my life will be removed. Nothing will remain hidden. Do not underestimate the emotional impact of this act. When you do something intentional, it shifts your heart. It tells your spirit that you are no longer powerless, no longer at the mercy of darkness. Emotional healing often begins when you finally act on what you believe. It is not about salt alone. It is about courage, about faith, about saying, "This is the day the cycle ends." The moment you take that step, you are not only cleansing a physical place, but declaring a spiritual reality. Your life will no longer carry the weight of curses. You are moving from being a victim of unseen battles to becoming the victor who breaks every chain. This is what faith does. It transforms weakness into strength, fear into boldness, and ordinary actions into extraordinary breakthroughs. When you leave this place today, I want you to remember, curses are not stronger than faith. Darkness is not stronger than light. And sometimes, it takes something as small as salt, placed in the most hidden part of your home, to remind you that every curse can and will be broken. Because the moment you believe, you are free. Have you ever thought about how something so small, so ordinary, could carry within it a power greater than what the eyes can see? Salt is one of those things. It sits on your table. It seasons your food. It preserves what could easily decay. Yet throughout history, salt has always symbolized purity, covenant, and healing. And when you take that salt and place it in a hidden corner of your home, even in your toilet, you are making a declaration to the invisible world that every dark cycle, every hidden curse, every lingering heaviness must be flushed away and never return. It is not superstition, it is faith in action, because faith transforms ordinary things into extraordinary weapons. A curse does not always arrive with thunder and lightning. Sometimes it whispers in silence, locking you into patterns you cannot explain. You wake up every morning and try again, but the same disappointment returns. Your business grows, then suddenly collapses. You build relationships, but they keep breaking. You earn money, but it slips away as though there are holes in your pockets. These are not just accidents. These are patterns, cycles that repeat like shadows circling your life. And what is a curse if not a cycle that tries to control you? That tries to convince you your future will never look different from your past. But there is something stronger than a curse, and that is faith. Placing salt in your toilet may sound foolish, but in the realm of faith, foolishness often hides wisdom. Remember the story of Naaman, who was told to wash in a river to be healed of leprosy. To his mind, it seemed too simple, too ordinary, too foolish. But when he obeyed, he was cleansed. Faith requires humility, the willingness to believe that even small actions can carry great meaning when done with intention. When you place salt where waste is flushed away, you are saying with your heart and spirit, every hidden impurity in my life, every chain that has tried to stay in the dark, every cycle of failure and disappointment is leaving me now. You are cleansing not only your home, but also your emotions, your spirit, your future. And this is where the true transformation begins, inside of you. Because curses are broken when you believe you are no longer powerless. Emotional chains fall off when you rise and act. Faith gives you back your courage, your sense of control, your hope that tomorrow will not look like yesterday. Salt is not magical, but it is meaningful. It is a tool, a symbol, a reminder that what is ordinary in your hands becomes powerful when touched by faith. So, as you act in faith, remember this truth: nothing in your life is too deep, too broken, or too cursed to be cleansed. Darkness cannot resist light. Cycles cannot stand against faith. And curses cannot remain when you have declared, through even the simplest act, that they are finished and gone forever. Have you ever noticed how the smallest things in life often carry the greatest meaning? A seed is tiny, but it can grow into a tree that shades generations. A single drop of water can create ripples across an entire pond. In the same way, something as simple as salt can become a symbol of a much greater reality. When you take salt and place it in your toilet, it may look like nothing more than a small act, but spiritually it carries a deep declaration. You are saying that everything unclean, everything dark, everything that has been stuck in the hidden corners of your life must now be washed away. Faith works in simple steps, but those steps open doors to powerful breakthroughs. A curse is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet and invisible. It shows up as cycles you cannot break. Every time you take one step forward, something pulls you back 2 steps. It shows up in constant financial struggles, in broken relationships, in sickness that lingers without reason, in peace that never stays. These are not just accidents. They are signs of chains that are trying to hold you captive. But chains are never permanent when faith rises. And the key is not always to fight with force, but to act with faith. Salt in your toilet is not about the salt itself. It is about the message you are sending: this place, this home, this life will no longer be a dwelling for curses. Faith has always been about using the ordinary to unlock the extraordinary. In the book The Fourth Dimension, Dr. David Yonggi Cho spoke about the power of vision and spoken faith, how the unseen shapes the seen. When you hold salt in your hand, it is just salt. But when you place it with intention, it becomes a covenant, a declaration, a weapon. It says to every cycle of darkness, your time is over. It speaks cleansing not just to a physical place, but to the atmosphere of your entire life. Think about the toilet. It is where waste leaves. It is a place designed to carry away what you do not need. Spiritually, it represents the hidden burdens and curses that you have carried for too long. By putting salt there, you are claiming authority over those things. You are not asking them politely to leave. You are commanding them to be flushed out completely. This is faith in action. And every time you act on faith, your heart shifts. You feel lighter, you sense hope. You realize you are not stuck. This emotional shift is often the first step to a life that finally feels free. Do not let the simplicity of the act fool you. Great victories often begin with small steps. The salt itself does not hold power, your faith does. And when you combine faith with action, even a hidden place like a toilet becomes a battlefield where curses are broken and freedom begins. Have you ever asked yourself why your life sometimes feels like it is repeating the same story over and over again? You try, you pray, you work hard, and yet the same disappointments keep coming back. It feels like a cycle that never ends, a shadow that refuses to leave. That is what a curse is. An invisible weight that keeps you tied to the past, no matter how much you want to move forward. And breaking that weight doesn't always begin with something grand or dramatic. Sometimes it begins with something so small, so ordinary, that it feels almost foolish. That is the mystery of faith. Salt, for example, looks so ordinary. It is in every kitchen, every home. But salt carries a powerful meaning. In ancient times, salt was used to seal covenants, to preserve what would otherwise decay, and to cleanse what was unclean. When you take salt and place it in your toilet, you are doing more than just dropping crystals into water. You are making a declaration to yourself and to the spiritual world that every hidden curse, every invisible chain, every cycle that has tried to bury your future is being flushed away. You are saying, this house is clean. This life is free. This story is about to change. A toilet may seem like an unusual place to demonstrate faith, but it carries a deep message. What goes into it is waste, things you no longer need, things that must leave. Spiritually, it represents the parts of your life you need to let go of. The hurts, the failures, the curses that have weighed you down. When you place salt there, you are giving a physical form to your faith, saying, just as this salt cleanses, just as this water carries away waste, so will every curse leave my life and never return. Faith is not about the salt. It is about what you believe when you place it. Cycles are broken not by chance, but by courage. Many people live their whole lives accepting the shadows that chase them, never daring to declare that enough is enough. But when you rise in faith, even in a simple act, something shifts inside you. You feel hope stirring again. You feel courage growing. You begin to see that curses are not stronger than you, because faith has already made you stronger than them. This emotional shift is powerful. It is the beginning of freedom. The moment your heart declares what your hands have done. Never underestimate the power of small acts of faith. They may seem foolish to the world, but they are mighty in the unseen realm. Salt in your toilet will not look like much to others, but to you it is a symbol, a covenant, a declaration that every hidden curse is broken. And the truth is this, when faith speaks, curses have no choice but to flee. Have you ever noticed how some battles in life are not visible, yet you feel them every single day? You cannot see them with your eyes, but you feel the weight on your heart, the delay in your plans, the frustration in your efforts. That is how curses work. They hide, they linger, they repeat themselves quietly until you start believing this is simply how life will always be. But faith teaches us differently. Faith says every chain can be broken, every curse can be destroyed, and every hidden cycle can come to an end. And sometimes, the act that begins that freedom looks very small, very simple, like placing salt in your toilet. Salt is more than seasoning. It has always been a symbol of purity, preservation, and covenant. When you take salt and place it in a place designed to carry away waste, You are declaring something deeper than the act itself. You are saying, every darkness, every curse, every weight that has tried to cling to me will be flushed away. Nothing will remain hidden. Nothing will remain unclean. It is not the salt that carries the power. It is your faith. The salt is only a vessel, a reminder, a physical expression of your belief that freedom has already begun. Think about your own life for a moment. Where do you see patterns repeating? Where do you see cycles that never seem to break? Is it in your finances, where money never lasts? Is it in your relationships, where peace never stays? Is it in your health, where sickness lingers without reason? These are not coincidences. These are signs that there are chains in the unseen realm trying to control the visible. But here is the truth: when you rise in faith and act, even with something as simple as salt, you are declaring to those cycles that their time is finished. The toilet itself carries meaning. It is where what is unclean leaves the house. Spiritually, it represents what must no longer remain in your life: pain, regret, curses, fear. By placing salt there, you are partnering with faith to cleanse not just a place in your home, but a place in your heart. It is a reminder that no curse can stay hidden when faith calls it out and commands it to leave. You are not just cleaning a space, you are shifting an atmosphere. The emotional impact of this act is profound. The moment you do it, you feel different, not because of superstition, but because you took action. Faith is not passive, it always moves, it always acts. And when you move in faith, something awakens inside you. You begin to see hope where you only saw despair. You begin to feel strong where you once felt weak. You begin to believe that curses are not stronger than you, because faith has already broken their grip. So never despise the small act, because it is often the key to the greater breakthrough. Salt in your toilet may seem small to the world, but to your spirit, it is a bold declaration. It says, my home is clean, my life is free, every curse is broken. Have you ever asked yourself why certain struggles seem to follow you, no matter how hard you fight? You change your plans, you work harder, you pray, you even try to forget, but somehow the same disappointments, the same failures, the same heart touches return like unwanted guests. That is the nature of a curse. It is not always loud or obvious, but it is heavy and persistent. And many people live under these silent weights without ever knowing they can be lifted. The truth is, freedom often begins with something simple, something symbolic, something that might look foolish to the world, but carries power in the unseen. That is why even a small act, like putting salt in your toilet, can become a declaration that every hidden curse in your life will be broken and flushed away forever. Salt has always carried meaning far beyond taste. It preserves what could rot. It purifies what could be spoiled. It seals promises and covenants. When you hold salt in your hand, you are holding a symbol of cleansing and preservation. When you place that salt in your toilet, a place designed to remove what is unclean, you are aligning your faith with action. You are telling your spirit and the spiritual realm that what has tried to contaminate your life will no longer stay. Every curse that has lingered in the dark, every cycle that has held you captive, is being carried out of your home and out of your future. Faith is not about the size of the act, but the heart behind it. Remember, even in the scriptures, miracles often began with small steps. A shepherd's staff, a handful of oil, 5 loaves and 2 fish. All looked insignificant, but when combined with faith, they shifted destinies. Salt in your toilet is no different. It is not superstition. It is a symbol of your faith taking authority over what has tried to stay hidden. The moment you act, you are no longer agreeing with the curse. You are standing against it. You are saying, my life is not bound. My family is not bound. My future is not bound. Think about how much emotional weight is lifted when you finally act on your belief. For too long, many people wait, hoping things will change on their own. But curses do not break by chance. They break when faith speaks and faith moves. And when you take even this simple step, something changes in your heart. You feel lighter, you sense hope, you begin to believe again. The toilet may look like an unusual place for faith, but it represents release. It is the place where what does not belong is sent away. By placing salt there, you are declaring that the same thing will happen in your life. Everything that does not belong, everything that has weighed you down, everything that has cursed your steps will be released and never return. So do not underestimate the small act. What looks like nothing to the eyes becomes everything to the spirit. Salt in your toilet may seem foolish, but in truth it is a cry of faith. And faith never leaves you where it finds you. It always lifts, it always breaks chains. It always opens the door to freedom. Have you ever felt like life keeps circling back to the same pain, the same setbacks, the same disappointments, no matter how much effort you put into changing things? It's as if there is an unseen weight pulling you back every time you try to move forward. That is the nature of a curse. It doesn't always shout, but it quietly drains your strength, delays your progress, and steals your joy. Many people live under these invisible chains, thinking it's just bad luck or coincidence. But deep down they sense something is holding them. The good news is, every curse can be broken. And often the first step begins with faith, expressed through something very simple. Placing salt in your toilet may seem like a small act, even a strange one, but spiritually it speaks loudly. It is a declaration that what has been hidden in the dark corners of your life will no longer stay. That every curse has lost its grip and will be flushed out completely. Salt has always been a powerful symbol. In ancient times it was used to seal covenants, to purify, and to preserve. It has always carried the meaning of something lasting, something pure, something protected. When you take salt in your hand and release it into the place where waste is carried away, you are declaring by faith that everything unclean, everything poisonous, everything destructive that has tried to dwell in your life will now be removed. The toilet is not just a physical place of release. Spiritually, it represents the things you must no longer hold on to. Fear, shame, failure, curses that have lingered in silence. Putting salt there is your way of saying, I will no longer keep what does not belong. I am free, my house is free, my spirit is free. Faith has always worked through ordinary things. In the stories of old, a jar of oil, a shepherd's staff, or a simple stone became the instruments of miracles. It wasn't the objects themselves, but the faith behind them that carried power. Salt in your toilet is the same. It is not superstition but symbolism, not magic but meaning. It is faith using the ordinary to declare the extraordinary. And when you act on faith, something shifts inside you. You no longer feel powerless. You begin to sense courage rising again. You start to believe that curses are not permanent, that cycles can be broken, that your future does not have to look like your past. The emotional impact of this simple act cannot be ignored. For many, curses bring not only delay and struggle, but also deep discouragement. They steal joy and replace it with fear. But when you take a bold step of faith, even one as simple as salt in your toilet, hope stirs again. You begin to see that faith is stronger than fear, that light is stronger than darkness, that blessings are stronger than curses. And this awareness brings peace to your heart, strength to your spirit, and a new vision for your future. Never underestimate the power of small acts of faith. What looks ordinary becomes extraordinary when it is touched by belief. And the moment you take that step, you are no longer agreeing with the curse. You are standing against it, declaring that your life is clean, your home is whole, and every curse has been broken forever. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to carry invisible weights that keep them from truly moving forward? They try again and again, but life feels like a circle, returning to the same disappointments, the same failures, the same broken hopes. This is what a curse does. It locks you into cycles you did not choose, cycles that feel unbreakable. But faith shows us that nothing unclean, nothing heavy, nothing destructive has the right to stay when you stand in your authority. And sometimes, breaking that cycle begins with an act so small, so ordinary, that most people overlook it. That is the power of putting salt in your toilet. It is not superstition, it is a declaration, a physical symbol of spiritual cleansing. You are saying every curse, every hidden darkness, every repeating cycle is being flushed out of my life. Salt has always carried a sacred meaning. It represents purity, permanence, and covenant. It preserves what should remain and destroys what does not belong. When you drop salt into the place where waste is carried away, you are speaking a truth into your home and your spirit. Just as salt purifies, so my life will be purified. Just as water carries away what is unclean, so every curse and every hidden chain will leave me and never return. The toilet may look like an unusual place for faith, but it is the perfect picture of release. It is where what is no longer useful is taken out of your life. Spiritually, it becomes the symbol of curses being broken and carried away forever. Many people struggle because they wait for something huge to happen before they believe change is possible. But faith has always worked through small steps. A widow's jar of oil, a shepherd's stone, even a mustard seed, all look too small to matter. But when placed in faith, they created miracles. Salt in your toilet is no different. It may look like a simple act, but in the unseen world it is a bold declaration. It says, I refuse to accept this cycle. I refuse to carry this curse. I refuse to remain bound. And the moment you take that action, your heart begins to shift. Hope begins to awaken. You start to see that you are not powerless, that change is closer than you thought. The emotional weight of curses is often heavier than the circumstances themselves. They leave you discouraged, fearful, and hopeless. But when you stand in faith and act with courage, that heaviness lifts. You realize that faith is not passive, it is movement, it is action, it is declaration. And when faith moves, curses cannot stay, darkness cannot resist light, and chains cannot survive in the presence of belief. That is why even something as simple as salt becomes a key to breakthrough. Never underestimate what God can do with a small act of faith. The salt is not the power, your faith is the power. The salt is only the vessel, the reminder, the symbol that declares to your spirit and to every curse your time is finished. My life is free, my house is clean, my future is blessed. Have you ever noticed how some people fight with everything in them, yet life still feels stuck, as though they are walking in circles? No matter how hard they try, the same struggles keep showing up. Broken finances, broken relationships, broken peace. That is the sign of a curse. A curse is not always a loud voice or a dramatic event. Sometimes it is quiet, hiding in patterns that repeat again and again. Patterns that convince you nothing will ever change. But the truth is, every curse can be broken. And often it begins with a step of faith that looks small, almost foolish, but carries great power in the unseen. That is why even putting salt in your toilet can become a declaration of freedom. It is not the salt itself, but the faith behind it that shifts everything. Salt has always carried deep spiritual meaning. It represents purity, preservation, covenant, and cleansing. When you place salt in your toilet, you are symbolically declaring that everything dark, everything heavy, everything that has tried to pollute your life will be flushed away. The toilet may look like an ordinary place, but it is designed to carry away what does not belong. Spiritually, it represents release, letting go of what is unclean and unwanted. By placing salt there, you are saying, I will not keep what has cursed me. I will not allow what is unclean to stay in my life. Every chain must leave, and every hidden burden must be carried away. Think of how faith has always worked through simple acts. It was a small jar of oil that saved a widow, a handful of flour that sustained a household, 5 loaves and 2 fish that fed thousands. None of those things had power on their own. What made them powerful was faith. And in the same way, salt in your toilet may seem meaningless to the natural eye, but in the spirit it is a sign of courage, a sign of faith, a declaration that the cycles of yesterday will not control your tomorrow. When you act in faith, even with something small, your heart begins to shift. You no longer feel powerless. You begin to believe that change is possible, that curses can be broken, that freedom is closer than you thought. Emotionally, this creates hope where despair once lived. It gives peace where anxiety once ruled. It strengthens your spirit to keep believing, keep declaring, keep moving forward. The act itself is not superstition. It is a symbol, and symbols have power when they are tied to faith. Never underestimate the authority you carry when you believe. Darkness cannot stand against light. Curses cannot withstand faith. Cycles cannot hold when you rise and declare freedom. Salt in your toilet is not about cleaning a place. It is about cleansing an atmosphere. It is about saying with boldness that every curse has ended, every chain is broken, and your home, your life, your future are now free. Have you ever felt like no matter what you do, there's an invisible barrier keeping you from stepping into the life you dream of? You work hard, you plan carefully, you pray sincerely, yet just when you are about to rise higher, something pulls you back down. This is what a curse feels like, not always loud, not always visible, but always present, draining strength and repeating cycles of failure and frustration. Many people live with these unseen chains without realizing they can be broken. But faith has always shown us that even the strongest chains can shatter, and sometimes the key to that freedom comes through the simplest act. That is why putting salt in your toilet is not foolishness, but faith in motion. It is not about the salt itself, it is about what it represents. The breaking of curses and the cleansing of everything unclean that has tried to dwell in your life. Salt has been a symbol of purity and preservation for centuries. It was used in covenants to seal promises. It was used to preserve food from decay, and it was sprinkled to purify what was unclean. When you place salt in your toilet, you are not doing something meaningless. You are declaring that just as the toilet removes waste, so every curse and every hidden darkness will be removed from your life. It is a physical picture of a spiritual reality. Nothing unclean will remain, nothing heavy will stay, nothing broken will continue to cycle through your future. The toilet itself may seem like an unusual place for faith, but think about it. It is designed to carry away what you no longer need. Spiritually, it represents release. It represents the flushing out of pain, regret, shame, fear, and curses that have clung to you for too long. By placing salt there, you are saying, what was hidden in darkness is now exposed. What was clinging to me is leaving. What was delaying me is gone. It is not superstition, it is symbolism. And symbolism becomes powerful when fueled by faith. Faith has always worked through what looks ordinary. Moses stretched out a staff. David used a stone. A widow poured oil. None of these objects had power on their own, but faith turned them into weapons of victory. Salt in your toilet is no different. It is a small act, but it carries great meaning because it is done with belief. And when you move in faith, your heart also begins to change. You no longer see yourself as helpless. You begin to feel strength returning. You sense hope rising. You realize that curses are not stronger than you, because your faith has already broken their grip. Emotionally, this step of faith brings relief. It lifts the heaviness. It awakens peace, and it opens your spirit to believe again. That is the true power of faith. It not only breaks what is unseen, it also heals what is inside of you. And when you rise in faith, even through a simple act, curses lose their hold. Darkness cannot stay. Cycles cannot repeat. What looked impossible becomes possible, because faith has declared it finished and flushed away forever. And so, the message is clear: curses are not stronger than faith, and darkness is never stronger than light. What holds you today does not have to hold you tomorrow. When you take even the smallest step of faith, like salt placed in a hidden corner, you are declaring with your whole being that every curse has lost its power. Every cycle has ended, and your life is no longer bound. Do not despise the simple act, because it is often the doorway to the greatest breakthrough. Remember this: freedom does not begin when everything looks perfect on the outside. Freedom begins the moment you believe, the moment you act, and the moment you declare that your story will not end in bondage, but in victory.